The morning Ijeoma walked into Mercy General Hospital, carrying her husband's test results, she had no idea she was about to walk into the worst betrayal of her life. Not from the doctors, not from the nurses, from the woman she had feared all along but could never name. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button right now, because the kind of stories we tell on this channel will keep you up at night thinking. Now, let's get into it. Ijeoma had been married to Chukwuebuka for 11 years. 11 years of building something real. Not perfect, but real. They had a house in Enugu with a mango tree in the front yard that her mother-in-law planted. They had 2 children, a boy and a girl. They had arguments about money and quiet evenings where nothing needed to be said. That is what 11 years looks like. Ordinary on the surface, but layered underneath with everything 2 people share when they choose each other over and over again. Chukwuebuka, or Ebuka as everyone called him, was a civil engineer. Broad shoulders, quiet personality, the kind of man who fixed things around the house without being asked. He was not romantic in the way films show. He did not buy flowers, but he remembered that Ijeoma hated the smell of kerosene and always made sure the generator was filled before nightfall. That was his love language: small, practical, and present. So when Ebuka started losing weight in the middle of dry season, Ijeoma noticed immediately. He said it was stress from the new road project his company had taken on. She believed him because she had no reason not to. When his appetite disappeared and he started waking up at night soaked in sweat, she told him they needed a doctor. He resisted for 2 weeks, the way men do, insisting it would pass. It did not pass. The first hospital they went to was close to their neighborhood, a small private clinic run by an older doctor who had been in the community for 30 years. That doctor ran some basic tests and then looked at Ebuka with an expression that made Ijeoma's stomach drop. He told them gently that the results pointed to something that needed specialist care. He wrote a referral. The name on the referral was Dr. Nkozi Okafor at Mercy General Hospital. Ijeoma did not think anything of it. A name is just a name. They drove to Mercy General the following Tuesday. It was a large hospital, government-run, but with a private wing that had real beds and working air conditioning. Ijeoma held Ebuka's hand in the waiting room. He kept tapping his foot the way he did when he was trying to not show that he was afraid. When the nurse called their name and led them into the consultation room, the woman sitting behind the desk looked up from her files and smiled. She was beautiful. That was the first thing Ijeoma noticed, and she hated that she noticed it. Tall, even sitting down, with sharp cheekbones and skin the color of deep oiled mahogany. She wore her white coat the way women who know they are watched tend to wear things, effortlessly. Her name tag read Dr. N. Okafor. She stood to shake Ebuka's hand, and something passed between them. Not dramatic, not obvious, just a half second too long, a blink that did not blink. Ijeoma filed it away without naming it. The appointment was professional. Dr. Okafor reviewed the referral documents, asked Ebuka detailed questions about his symptoms, and ordered a new round of tests. She explained everything clearly. She spoke to Ijeoma directly, included her in the conversation, asked if she had any questions. On the surface, it was a perfectly normal medical consultation. But Ijeoma could not stop watching her husband's face. Ebuka was not a man who showed discomfort easily. He sat through difficult conversations without shifting in his seat. But in that room, with that doctor, something in his jaw was held too tightly. His answers were precise, controlled. He was performing calm the way you perform it when you are afraid of what might slip out. Outside in the car park, she asked him casually if he had ever met Dr. Okafor before. He said no. He said it looking straight ahead through the windscreen, reaching for his seatbelt, not at her. Ijeoma said nothing, but she remembered. The test results came back 10 days later. Ebuka had a serious but treatable condition involving his liver. It required ongoing treatment, regular monitoring, and lifestyle changes. Dr. Okafor would be his primary physician throughout the treatment. This meant multiple hospital visits over several months. The second appointment, Ebuka went alone. He said there was no point in Ijeoma making the long drive when it was just a follow-up. She agreed. She stayed home, but she thought about it all day. The third appointment, she went again. She sat in the waiting area while Ebuka was inside with Dr. Okafor, and she watched the nurses move through the corridor, and she prayed her suspicion was paranoia. She was good at talking herself down. 11 years of marriage had taught her that jealousy is a thief that steals the good years. She did not want to be that woman. But then, she saw the nurse leave the consultation room, carrying a small tray, and through the door that swung briefly open, she caught 3 seconds of what was inside. Her husband laughing, actually laughing, with his head slightly back, the way he laughed when he was completely relaxed. She had not seen him laugh like that with her in over a year. She looked away. She told herself it meant nothing. People laugh with their doctors. She told herself that for 6 more weeks. It was her daughter, 8-year-old Adana, who broke the spell without knowing she had done anything at all. Children do that. They wander through truths that adults have carefully arranged around themselves and knock everything over. Ijeoma had forgotten her phone in Ebuka's car one afternoon and went to retrieve it. Adana had been playing nearby and asked her mother what she was looking for. When Ijeoma mentioned the phone, Adana said very simply, without any idea of the weight of her words, "Daddy was on his phone talking for a long time last night. He went outside. He said he was talking to someone called Nkozi." Ijeoma went very still. She said, "Did he?" "Yes," Adana said. "He said her name twice, Nkozi. He was laughing." Ijeoma found her phone. She went inside. She made dinner. She put the children to bed. She sat across from her husband and watched him eat and wondered if she actually knew the person sitting in front of her. She did not confront him that night. She was not impulsive. She was careful. She needed to know more before she said anything because she understood that accusations without proof destroy marriages, and she was not ready to destroy anything until she was certain there was something to destroy. Over the next 2 weeks, she paid attention differently. She was not snooping, she was witnessing. She noticed that Ebuka's phone now had a new lock pattern. She noticed that he deleted WhatsApp messages the way someone clears footprints in sand. She noticed that his mood improved noticeably on hospital appointment days. He came home softer, more present, as if something had been filled in him that she had been unable to fill. That was the part that hurt most, not the suspicion of betrayal, the evidence of joy she had not given him. She decided she would go to the hospital unannounced. She waited until a day that was not a scheduled appointment day. She dressed simply, a plain Ankara blouse and dark trousers, nothing that would draw attention. She told no one she was going. She drove herself. At Mercy General, she did not go to the consultation room. She sat in the main corridor near the hospital cafeteria with a bottle of water and a magazine she was not reading, and she waited. She had asked herself what she expected to find. She did not have a clear answer. She only knew she needed to see something real, something she could not explain away. An hour passed, then 1 hour and 40 minutes. Then she saw them. Ebuka was walking down the corridor toward the exit. He was not supposed to be there that day. He was supposed to be at a site meeting in Okwa. Dr. Ngozi Okafor was walking beside him, not in her white coat, in a simple green dress. They were walking close, shoulders almost touching, and they were talking in the low, private way of people who have been inside each other's lives long enough to not need volume. Ijeoma stood up slowly. Her legs felt wrong. They had not seen her. She stepped slightly behind a pillar. She watched them stop at the junction in the corridor where the private wing split from the main hall. She watched Dr. Ngozi Okafor touch Ebuka's arm, not aggressively, not even romantically, but with the ease of someone who has touched that arm before, many times before. Ebuka looked at her hand on his arm and did not move away. Then he looked up, and he saw his wife. The next 10 seconds were the longest Ijeoma had ever lived through. She watched the blood drain from her husband's face. She watched Dr. Ngozi Okafor follow his gaze and find her. She watched the woman's expression change, not into guilt as Ijeoma had expected, but into something stranger, something that looked almost like grief. Ijeoma walked toward them because she did not know what else to do with her body. She stopped in front of them and said very quietly, "Ebuka, what is happening here?" He could not speak. He opened his mouth and the words did not come. And then Dr. Ngozi Okafor said, "Mrs. Ijeoma, I think we need to sit down." That sentence, that calm doctor voice sentence, Ijeoma almost laughed. Almost. They sat in a small family consultation room off the corridor. One of those rooms with soft chairs and a box of tissues on the table. The kind of room where doctors bring people to tell them hard things. Ijeoma sat across from both of them like she was the patient. What came out of the next 30 minutes rearranged everything she thought she knew. Dr. Ngozi Okafor was not Ebuka's girlfriend. She was not his side woman. She was not even a stranger he had met at that hospital. She was his first wife. Ijeoma heard the words and for a full 5 seconds, her brain refused them. Ebuka had been married before, not briefly, not in some youthful mistake he had corrected and disclosed. He had been married to Ngozi Okafor for 3 years before he met Ijeoma. The marriage had broken down, he said, under the weight of things he could not now easily name. Distance, ambition, a miscarriage that had cracked something between them that neither could repair. He left, not suddenly, in increments, the way people leave when they are too cowardly to make a single clean break. He told himself she was fine, that she was strong, that she did not need him. He told himself this until he believed it enough to meet someone new. Ijeoma listened to it all. She said, "And does she know about your children? Does she know about this family you built on top of what you broke?" He said yes. That was part of the phone calls had been. Not romance, confession. He had been telling Ngozi the truth of his life in pieces, the way he had never been able to tell Ijeoma truth, all at once. Ijeoma felt something shift in her chest. Not forgiveness, not yet. Something more complicated than forgiveness. An understanding that her husband was a man who ran from hard things and then lived in guilt about having run. That was who she had married. She had just not known the full shape of it. She did not leave him that night. She did not stay in the way of pretending nothing had happened. She told him they were going to do 2 things: a formal separation arrangement, drawn up properly, and counseling, not for reconciliation, for clarity. Because she needed to understand what she was deciding and she refused to make permanent decisions inside temporary pain. What happened in those counseling sessions over the following months was not what anyone would have predicted. Ijeoma, in trying to understand her husband, ended up understanding something about herself. She had built an identity around being the woman who had a stable marriage. She had never examined what her marriage was actually built on.
Needed inside that marriage only what the marriage looked like from the outside. She had been so committed to its appearance that she had stopped asking herself if she was actually happy. She was not unhappy, but happiness and flourishing are different things. The twist that she had not seen coming was this. She met Ngozi Okafor again, not in the hospital, at the counseling center, in a waiting room by coincidence of schedule. And after the initial stiffness of 2 women who had every reason to be hostile to each other, they sat and talked for 40 minutes while their respective appointments ran late. Ngozi was not the villain of this story. She was a woman who had also been injured by the same man, who had been carrying the scar of it quietly while building a career and a life, and, as Ijeoma now discovered, a marriage of her own to a cardiologist named Dr. Tobechukwu Eze, a kind, steady man who knew about her past and had chosen her anyway. The tragedy of Ebuka was not that he was a monster. It was that he was ordinary in his failures. A man who loved people and ran from the consequences of loving them, who kept secrets not from cruelty, but from a deep terror of being seen completely and found inadequate. Ijeoma told Ngozi that, sitting in that waiting room, and Ngozi laughed, startled and real, and said, "I spent years trying to figure out how to be angry at him properly. I never could. You cannot be properly angry at someone who is mostly just afraid." Ijeoma left that waiting room with something she had not walked in with. Not a friend, not exactly, but an unexpected witness. Someone who understood the particular exhaustion, of having built something beautiful on land that was never properly surveyed. The final decision Ijeoma made, she made alone, on a Sunday morning, sitting under the mango tree in her front yard while the children were still asleep. She had thought about it from every angle. She had cried about it in the car where no one could see. She had prayed about it in the quiet way she prayed, without words, just a kind of interior listening. She called Ebuka outside and told him she was not going to end the marriage immediately. She was going to give it 1 year, a real year, not a performance of a year. He would need to file the proper documentation to formally dissolve what remained of his arrangement with Ngozi legally and completely. He would continue counseling, she would continue counseling. They would be honest with each other about what was working and what was not, and at the end of that year, she would decide with a clear mind whether the man in front of her was someone she wanted to continue building with. She was not doing it for him. She was doing it for herself, because she deserved to make a decision from a place of knowledge rather than a place of devastation. Ebuka cried. She had not seen him cry in 11 years. She did not hold him, not yet, but she did not walk away either. She sat back down under the mango tree and watched the morning come in, orange and slow over the rooftops of Enugu. And she thought about how much of what we call solid ground is actually just something we have agreed to stand on together, and how fragile and brave that agreement really is. A year later, Ijeoma was still in that house. Ebuka was still there too. They had not returned to what they had been before, and she had stopped wanting to. What they had built in that year of hard honesty was smaller than the marriage that came before it, but it was real in a way the earlier version had never managed to be. There were no more secrets. There were hard conversations. There was a new kind of respect between them, forged in the fire of what could have destroyed them. Dr. Ngozi Okafor transferred Ebuka's care to a colleague, as she should have done from the start. His liver condition responded well to treatment. By the dry season of the following year, he was largely recovered. And in a city of 3 million people, 2 women who could have been enemies chose a different thing. Not friendship, but recognition. The kind that says, I see what you survived. I see who you had to become to survive it. That counts for something. Ijeoma never told her children about any of it. They were too young, and the truth belonged to the adults who had made it. One day, when they were old enough, she would tell them this, that love is not proof against deceit, but it is sometimes larger than deceit, and that the hardest and most important thing a person can do is decide who they want to be on the other side of betrayal. Not who the betrayal made them, who they chose to be. If this story moved something in you, hit subscribe, because the stories we carry in this part of the world, the real ones, the ones whispered in hospital waiting rooms and under mango trees and in counseling centers with bad lighting, those stories deserve to be heard. They deserve witnesses. Be one of them. Subscribe and stay close. There is so much more to tell.